So, parallel processing in quantum computing. Now, um, the way that the original assessments or estimates were done, the time taken to solve a computational problem was calculated in terms of steps required, roughly. How many steps are required in order to get to the end of your calculation. But the thing is that with quantum computing, the answers are probabilistic. I mean, that's the advantage that you gain over there. So you won't run a compute just once, you'll run it multiple times in order to accrue your data sets. So for example, for Shor's algorithm, right? Now, Shor's algorithm is the easiest for people to understand intuitively because it relates to something that you use every day, which is your credit card or online purchase. The way that your security is maintained for online purchases on credit card is through something called the RSA protocol. And in a nutshell, what this involves is the computational difficulty in factoring two prime numbers. So if you've got a very large number that is essentially a multiple of two primes, two very large primes, then the ability of your classical computers to figure out which two primes those are is really difficult. Whereas with the quantum computer, you can feed in the problem as a wave function as such, do some manipulations, flip things around, so the probability of the right answer is much larger than the probability of the noise, and then read it out and do this multiple times. And the way that currently we envisage doing this is that you'd run it once, you get a result, you'll try that result. If the answer is incorrect, you run the quantum computer again, you get another result, and then you keep doing that until the answer matches up. And it sounds at first, the first time you hear it, it sounds a little weird that you don't get a specific answer outright and it's probabilistic, and it seems inefficient that you have to do it multiple times. But the truth of the matter is that even though you do that, it's significantly faster than the alternative. So I guess an example for this is that think of classical computer as you want to walk from here to London, right? Or you want to walk from the east coast of the United States to the west coast of the United States. Back in the day, that would take you multiple months, if not years, to do. Whereas nowadays, with an airplane, you can do it within a fraction of a day. And so even if, let's say, you're trying to do a business deal or something like that, and you've got to go back and forth across, you've got to go coast to coast, multiple times in order to get that deal, it's still significantly faster than walking across. So that's the sort of scale in which we're talking about in terms of the difference of the compute. But one thing that isn't discussed that much because it's such a nascent field and a new field is that you can minimize the number of iterations or the multiplicity of times in which you need to run a quantum computer if you've got lots and lots and lots of quantum computers. So in addition to scaling of individual chips, how many qubits you can put in a single chip, it's also of great interest to the field in terms of practical implementation, to be able to scale your quantum computing unit. So you can not only easily make chips with a large number of qubits, but just as easily you can manufacture thousands of them at low cost. And then since they're not going to be in a house because of the sort of problems that you're solving, everything is going to be accessed via the cloud. And so this way you just run it runs on all the computers at the same time. And so you can accrue your wave function or your probability distribution much, much quicker. And, this is something which, in the original computers, classical computers, they didn't really think too much about parallel processing because they were just really interested in getting a single compute out. And so parallel processing sort of developed over time later. Now, what I'm talking about with this example with Shor's algorithm is a very simple way of using parallel processing for quantum computers. It's using them exactly how we envisage right now. Give single problem to each computer, have them run at the same time, and then you develop your statistics much, much faster. So that already is one advantage, but in addition to that, and it's, as I'm delving more and more into quantum algorithms, it's an interesting field to explore about, is it possible to break down your complex problems and then do real or true parallel processing with quantum computers. So is there any advantage to that? What advantages could there be? And again, you can sort of see with this sort of thinking that it's really hard to gauge what the answer is until you actually have working quantum computers at scale, multiples of them. And that's when you really start to discover what the true applications are, what can you really do, and how far you can take it. So now you can start to understand what the excitement of this is about, is that even in its most basic form, a simple quantum computer, even running multiple times to accrue statistics, can massively speed up problems that we already know. But once you have not just that, but multiples of these, then it presents a whole set of new problems that we should be able to hope to solve that we don't even have the bandwidth to think about at this stage. So this is, I guess, a pitch for, why people should be interested in quantum computing and track it and support it. So I saw recently that today there was a news that I received in my email that India right now allocated something like $1.4 billion into quantum computing. And I think that's fantastic. As a quantum enthusiast, I think that more countries should do it. I mean, I'm trying to get Pakistan to invest something properly and set up collaborations. And I would love to collaborate with China and India and the US, and let's try to make a better world. That's what I really believe in. And so, all the politics aside, right now, South Asia is a little bit touchy right now. I'm not exactly sure what's going on, so I'm not delving into that. But all I know is I have lots of Indian friends, and they are fantastic. They're incredibly friendly. They're wonderful people. And they seem to think that the same about me and other Pakistanis. So I think that whatever's going on right now is just a small blip. History is going to look at that as a small blip. Hopefully the last blip before peace breaks out. Excited to see what more India does. And back in the day when we were working on desalination plants, I had a couple of Indian friends who I made on the project, and they were really interested and excited to visit Pakistan and even set up that project in Pakistan to start off with. And for me, that was such a wonderful gesture. And so likewise, if things are moving faster in India, I'm excited in the field. I'm excited in moving forward. So happy to collaborate, happy to go visit, happy to do something. So I'm open at the moment, and right now Silicon Valley is kind of interesting. It's an interesting place to be. And regarding the Google quantum experiment, I think there's a lot of confusion about this in the public sphere. So to break it down into a metaphor about why the quantum field is ambivalent about what seems to be this significant breakthrough, is essentially the way to envision it is think about the age of the radio, when we're living in the age of the radio. And there's a few researchers trying to create the first television set, and the radio works really well. You've got music, you've got all of these things, And people are kind of interested, why should you have a TV? Why should we invest money in a television? Like, will people really care about the TV? Oh my God, will the TV kill the radio, for example? And imagine Google comes in and says that, oh, we have just demonstrated television supremacy, right? So it sounds kind of stupid, right? And that's why a lot of researchers, most of the researchers, think that the naming was a little silly and gimmicky and marketing, which is fine. That's the way things are going right now in order to attract research dollars into the field. But let's say, they say like, oh, we have demonstrated television supremacy. And people take a closer look and say, okay, what exactly have you demonstrated? And what they've essentially demonstrated is that they can transmit white noise, snow, to your television set. And so what they've demonstrated is that you turn on your TV, that they send a signal, and what you see is noise. It is perfect snow. And everyone is sort of like, this is a huge non-result. It's a huge, not a non-result, but it's a whole lot of nothing. It's that's the sort of feeling that you get, because that's kind of what it is. It's just that's why Google is a little hesitant to carefully describe exactly what they've achieved with quantum supremacy to lay people. Because effectively that's what it was. It was noise. It was literally it was the equivalent of a speckle pattern. Just looking at noise. And of course, for marketing purposes, they want to keep their funding. They want to grow their funding, and I think that's a smart thing to do. It's not an invalid argument. Because the more funding they get, the more funding other people get, the more excitement that's generated to an extent, the quicker this field will grow, and then we'll get some true results, some real results, and then it won't have to be so gimmicky. So that's why for the rest of the field, it was a little bit of a, well, yeah, you did this, but like, what are the practical applications or not? So it's a little weird to call it quantum supremacy. And then for Google to try to make arguments that, oh, well, if you used a radio to describe all of the noise that everyone is seeing on, a second-by-second basis or a microsecond-by-microsecond basis, then it would take, like, thousands of years to describe, like, what's happening, And, the bottom line is it's noise, right? So, true, it's quantum noise, and that's fantastic. But it's just noise. So in a nutshell, if you were curious about what the big deal was, now you know. Hopefully the community is going to come up with some real application for quantum computing. There've already been some exciting quantum applications. One is the quantum satellite that was made in China for unhackable video calls via satellite. And another one that they created was the quantum radar a few years ago, in which effectively they can, up to 60 miles out, apparently according to their publications that I've been able to see, it's a unit that's on the field, not just in the lab, but it's on the field and can detect even stealth technology. So even your F-22 or F-35 fighters, it can detect them and track them up to 60 miles out. So in a way, effectively it appears to be that all current stealth technology for aircraft has been mostly been made redundant, so non-existent. So in terms, as a technologist, that's super exciting, and again, not getting into any of the politics or anything, just as a researcher, as someone who has spent his life in quantum and done a quantum PhD, and spent time in startups, that is a super exciting result from the point of view of a globalist. So I hope that people enjoy this, and hopefully I'll find a position for myself within this new burgeoning quantum world where I feel truly comfortable, happy, and satisfied. So, but up until then, I'll continue to track and hopefully share all of the exciting developments.